What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with kind of a news and rumors video. And I don't know if you guys really care about any of this stuff or not. I do, because I think it's interesting to see where the Star Wars franchise is going in terms of the live action content and video games, things like that, because it affects prices, whether you want to like it or not. These kind of things have effects on Star Wars collectibles prices. And it's nice to kind of get an idea of what's coming down the pipe and how it might affect prices, not only of action figures, but also comic books and whatever else you collect. So I'm going to cover a number of articles here. As always, nothing's set in stone for a lot of this stuff, but a lot of these websites I follow now are pretty accurate. Most of the stuff tends to be true in some form or fashion, whether it's a month from now or 5 months from now or a year from now. They tend to get it right. And one of those websites is Giant Freaking Robot. I just kind of learned about them over the last year, maybe 2 years. And they have some inside sources somewhere, because they have really nailed pretty much everything that's happened in a lot of the different Star Wars shows that have come out, as well as content and things like that for the video games. They were one of the first people to talk about Cad Bane and how he was going to be making an appearance, and sure enough, that happened, and they've called a lot of this stuff right. So one of the things that they are now saying through a trusted source is that there is going to be an Ahsoka Tano movie with Rosario Dawson that is in the works. Dave Filoni is apparently heavily involved, and he's going to be kind of in charge of this movie. So we'll see what happens. Clearly, they're gonna release it after season 1 of the new Ahsoka show comes out, and assuming it's successful, which I'm sure it will be, we could see kind of a follow-up to however the story ends in season 1 into a movie, and we'll see if that really plays out or not. But it just seems like they're really setting everything up for Ahsoka Tano, the Rebels team, because they've already announced clearly Sabine Wren, Ezra Bridger, and Thrawn are coming. So all of these characters are going to be really tightly interwoven, and as a result of that, I do think that, I know it's expensive, but I do think that Clone Wars #1 is going to see another leg up at some point. It's been kind of flatlined lately, really. It's one of those books I just track for fun. I don't ever expect to actually buy one. But in a 9.8 grade, at least, which allows for apples-to-apples comparison over time, this thing, during the peak of the coronavirus comic book market last year, was almost $4 grand. It had gotten really, really expensive. And I'm talking about for the standard cover, not the the 1,000 copy alternate variant cover that goes for big money. But just the standard Clone Wars #1, which is Ahsoka Tano's first appearance in comics, it's come back down quite a bit. And, it had been hovering at, in that kind of $3,500 to as high as $4,000 a few sales. But lately, over the last 6 months or so, it's been kind of hovering around $3,000. And it's taken another leg down for the most part. This one just sold for $2,600. That's the lowest price I've seen here lately. Another one sold February 19th at auction. That one sold for $2,800 on 49 bids. So that gives you a pretty rough price point if you're in the market and have deep pockets for an Ahsoka Tano Clone Wars #1. I just think that this book, if the show is successful and that it actually do follow through in a year or 2 years' time with an Ahsoka Tano specific movie, that's going to do nothing but draw in even more Ahsoka fans, which we know she's got a pretty rabid fan base anyway. So I could see this book taking another leg up. We'll see if that happens or not. Another rumor that's apparently happened is that for this new Obi-Wan series that's coming out in May, we already know about a lot of the stuff that's been confirmed, that the Inquisitorius are coming. I think that Agent Callus or Fulcrum is going to be coming. But another rumor is that they're going to be having a lot of heavy flashbacks. And Qui-Gon Jinn, apparently, Liam Neeson, is apparently going to be coming in the series. So through the form of flashbacks. So I'm not surprised terribly that, with the anti-aging technology, there's quite a bit of leeway now for bringing back, flashback type sequences. So I think that we can see Anakin Skywalker, Hayden Christensen, de-aged, we can see Obi-Wan de-aged, and apparently now they're talking about adding Qui-Gon Jinn to the Obi-Wan series. So we'll see if that happens. In terms of comics that haven't really moved at all, that I think are worth taking a look at, I don't know if I've mentioned this. If I have, it was only in passing. But Obi-Wan and Anakin #1, which is from 2016. This is a Charles Soule story. I think this is worth looking at because this covers a lot of the adventures between Anakin and Obi-Wan. And while we certainly saw their dynamic in pretty heavy, detail during that prequel trilogy, we didn't see kind of outside adventures, outside of Clone Wars specific type stuff that was happening in the movies. And I do think that we could see some flashback sequences there, using anti-aging technology. So this is a book that I'd consider. It goes for about $200 right now. It's from March of 2016. It's a great cover too. It's got, a young Anakin and a young Obi-Wan. So that's one I'd take a look at because it covers a lot of the early years of their relationship. Another one that I have talked about recently is the origin of Darth Vader's lightsaber. There's a couple of books in and around this 2017 Darth Vader run that you want to go take a look at. If you go to keycollectorcomics.com, you can break down that series and see. But there's a number of issues that are kind of like Anakin / Darth Vader origin story type stuff that happened in this 2017 run. And this is one I picked out that I'd like to get myself just because I like the cover. But this one goes for between $100 and $125. But there's a number of other stories and other comic books within that Darth Vader 2017 run that are worth a look. Apparently the Obi-Wan, the opening sequence for the Obi-Wan's first episode has leaked online. I'm not a big kind of like spoilers kind of guy, but they are going to be touching on Order 66, which I'm not terribly surprised by, given that in the Book of Boba Fett we saw a flashback sequence from Grogu that shows him in Order 66 and, the various clone troopers attacking and killing the various Jedi. So I bet we will see more of that as well. So one other kind of related point is that I saw a number of articles online. And as a side note, I'll include links to all of these articles in the video description in case you want to read some of these. But I have recently read a number of articles online that talk about Grand Admiral Thrawn. And we all know that he's probably going to be showing up in the Ahsoka series, but there's the overarching theme that Thrawn is going to be kind of the main major villain across all of the Mandoverse or the Disney Star Wars universe for a lot of these shows. It's not going to be just specific to Ahsoka. So keep that in mind for those of you that are Thrawn fans like me. I'm a big Admiral Thrawn fan. I think that if you have an interest in his comics, now's probably a pretty good time to pick him up. Heir to the Empire has moved back up a little bit. It's moved up probably about 20 to 25% off of the lows that we saw, and we talked about that in the past. But it's moved back up in kind of that $1,600 to $1,800 range for Heir to the Empire #1, which is Grand Admiral Thrawn's first appearance, as well as Mara Jade. So keep that in mind, and that's obviously an expensive book, but I do think that there's probably going to be another leg up. We could probably see that very easily cross $2,000, maybe even $3,000, if we start to see Thrawn take shape as the major villain across a number of different shows. But, so, yes, that's expensive, but there's other options out there for Thrawn that I think that you can focus on that are dirt cheap right now, and they have not moved at all. And quite honestly, I want to buy more of them. I really do. I think that Thrawn #1, this is the standard cover. There are a number of different cover variations, but this will probably be your least expensive. But this is the Paul Renaud cover from April 2018. It's kind of the origin story of Thrawn. It's his first solo comic series. Those always tend to mirror what the first appearance comics do on a lesser scale. So you have like Dr. Aphra's first appearance. That's gone up. But so has her first solo series. That's gone up. So, I think you can do the same thing with Thrawn. It's still around $200. I bought mine close to a year ago, I feel like. And I paid this almost the exact same price. And it has not moved at all. So, this one just sold February 28th for $202. 2 bids. That's it. It did jump up to kind of 250 range, and now it's back down again to 200. And now is the time, while we're kind of in this weird lull between the Book of Boba Fett and the release of the Obi-Wan series, where not much is happening in terms of Star Wars news. And I'm telling you, I think this book could hit $300 or more very easily down the line. It's not a rare book. There's plenty of them out there on the census, and that might be what's holding it back a little bit because it's a fairly new book. But from my perspective, if Thrawn kind of takes that mantle as the main villain within the Star Wars universe on Disney Plus, and even into, if they make an Ahsoka movie, certainly I could see him showing up there as well. So I think now's a good time to pick that book up. It's from 2018 again, and it's a great cover anyway. It's an awesome kind of origin story. And then finally, I did want to mention that we've talked about the High Republic and how there's a video game coming out called Eclipse. Well, apparently that video game has been delayed. So we'll see what happens there. But there's been a lot of pushback, I guess, with the developer for the High Republic game, and tales of abuse, and just not a lot of good stuff is coming out about the developer. So Ubisoft, who I think is kind of in charge of the Star Wars universe and this kind of open world Eclipse video game, they've said it's going to be delayed. It's not coming out till 2027 now. That's a pretty long ways away, given that that's 5 years away. So, but these open world games do take a long time. And we have heard that the High Republic is coming to a movie as well. So I think we've seen a pretty massive run up. I'm not going to bother going through the comics for the High Republic because they're many and plentiful out there, but the books have gone up quite a bit lately. And it just seems like speculators are expecting the High Republic to be kind of the main push by Disney, not in the short term, but in the intermediate term. They're trying to kind of get that phase 2 stuff going with more books, more comics, more backstory for a lot of these characters, fleshing all the character backstories out, like Marchion Ro with his origin comic, things like that. As they world build, I could see the High Republic taking on a new leg with movies and live action content, maybe a cartoon, things like that. So, but I did want to mention that it was delayed. The video game has been delayed. That's all I really had for this video. I hope you found this information useful. If you liked it, please be sure to leave a like and comment below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.